these tariffs from the President of the United States are going to eat into their bottom line, going to cost this company between $4 and $5 billion this year alone.
We're seeing a slowdown in freight traffic out here, and it's about to get even thinner.
From busy harbors to empty docks, from steady imports to sudden delays, tariffs have shaken America's supply chain. The effects are spreading fast and leadership isn't keeping up. Here's how the trade war exposed cracks in the economy and what it means for the economy ahead.
Janet, on relocating trade or perhaps rebalancing the economy, I'm having a hard time getting my head wrapped around. What are the effects of a narrowing trade deficit if Trump gets that, if that's what he's after? I mean, we're still all confused if that's really what he wants. But let's say the trade deficit does narrow. Does that necessarily entail there'll be less investment, via capital account inflows into the U.S.? And does that worry you, or is that off the mark?
Well, he's not going to balance the budget, the trade deficit. Balancing the trade deficit would take a multi-year recession, which is actually what happened in the 1930s when tariffs were at this level. But I think there is an inconsistency of what he's trying to deliver. You cannot have a much narrower trade deficit and have lower bond yields. Actually, if you are investing now, and remember, a lot of countries have been investing in the US for the last 3 years, helped by the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act. But now, if you're building plant in the US, you're paying tariffs on a lot of the building materials and other areas that you are doing. So he is making the costs of producing in the US more expensive.
Where does that money go, I suppose, is the next question. If we're seeing this move away from the US, is Europe attractive enough for that? Will the Chinese stimulus measures help to drive kind of greater growth from there? Where do you see that rebalancing benefiting?
Well, if the US does succeed in narrowing its external balances, then that means the external surpluses elsewhere in the world. So their kind of excess savings that used to all go into the US, actually there'll be less of it. Also, in Europe, there will be more demands on those European savings.
In the financial world, gold is flashing warning signs as fears grow over the trade war and its economic fallout. Gold prices have surged past $3,400 an ounce, up more than $700 since January. Investors are rushing to gold as a safe haven, signaling deep concern about the future. Economists warn that a recession may be coming. Some, like Apollo's Torsten Slok, expect serious disruption by late May, including halted imports, empty shelves, and retail losses. Slok predicts these shocks could lead to a recession by summer 2025. Business leaders report falling orders and reduced investment. The Federal Reserve admits tariffs are slowing growth and raising inflation. Meanwhile, American consumers are reacting in familiar ways. Just as in past crises, gun and ammunition sales may spike again, fueled by fear and a need for security. Whether gold or goods, people are preparing for what could be a very uncertain season ahead.
Traffic on land is lighter than usual at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach.
I started to see the decrease on the cargo getting out of the port.
A massive slowdown is hitting America's busiest port complex. The ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach are not in good condition.
Almost every day you see lines, like half-hour, an hour-long lines. The past week, nothing.
Fewer containers mean fewer shifts for crane operators, forklift drivers, and port workers. Overtime is vanishing, and even full-time hours are at risk.
I think things are going to get better in the future. We believe this administration is doing a good job. It's just that it's going to take a little time.
Adding truckers have already weathered many crises in the past.
Right now it might be slow, but we've been through this a lot in the ports. There's some months that we got really slow, and some other months we are really busy.
The port of Long Beach is getting hit hard because a big chunk of the incoming traffic is from China. And President Trump slapped China with tariffs of up to 145% on imported goods, though the Trump administration says they're working to close trade deals with China and other countries.
In just the first week of May, the number of container ships docking there dropped by a shocking 25% compared to last year. Massive cranes that used to operate constantly now remain still.
Hopefully everything gets sorted out and we're going to be back working like we used to.
Mario Cordero of Long Beach Port warned, less containers, less jobs, less business for truckers. This decline is just as severe as what was seen during the peak of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the cause? a trade conflict between the U.S. and China, as new tariffs strike hard at Chinese goods and other imports.
This is the busiest port in the Western Hemisphere. Around 60% of the cargo is from China. But Trump's tariffs are already biting here.
Fewer ships, fewer containers. It means fewer trucks that will be needed to transport those containers from the port terminal to the warehouses.
Barely surviving, and the fact that we are not going to have any income coming in, in my case, 2 incomes that are not going to come in. How are we going to survive? The funny part is people are now becoming ashamed to even say it. They voted for him because there's that stigma like, what were you thinking?
Cargo's down 33% this week, potentially 44% in the first week of May. This is a serious hit to the world economy and something that will be seen visibly in the US.
A silent crisis is unfolding at America's busiest ports. Every morning, dozens of dock workers gather at dispatch halls, hoping for jobs, but many leave with nothing. As cargo traffic slows, so does the work. Fewer containers mean fewer shifts for longshoremen, truck drivers, and warehouse crews. The impact doesn't stop there. Over 70% of port workers live within 10 miles of the LA Long Beach port complex. Communities like San Pedro and Wilmington, once supported by steady port paychecks, now face economic strain. Local shops are suffering. One safety gear vendor saw sales drop by 75% in just weeks. When workers aren't paid, they stop spending. The effects ripple beyond the coast. 1 in 5 jobs in Southern California is connected to port activity. As labor activist Diane Middleton put it, what happens in the port doesn't stay in the port. With cargo flowing to all 435 U.S. congressional districts, this slowdown is a national warning. U.S. consumers are starting to feel the quiet impact of port slowdowns and tariff hikes. While retailers had stocked up in advance, officials now warn that these goods may run out in weeks. As early as late May, empty store shelves could appear. Key items like furniture, electronics, clothing, and toys all shipped through U.S. ports are at risk.
The chief executives of Walmart and Target have privately warned President Trump of empty shelves in the coming weeks.
Now, it's going to be interesting because retailers, big and small, have been telling me that we've got about 4, 5, 6 weeks left of normal inventory levels. If this continues on for any duration, we'll have fewer items to select from, some spot shortages, and likely prices will increase as they're affected by these tariffs from a host of countries across the Pacific Rim.
Temu, the low-cost shopping app, has stopped shipping directly from China after a tariff loophole closed. Now relying on U.S. warehouses, it warns of delays and fewer products. A $18 dress has already jumped to $44 due to a 142% import fee. Retailers are unsure what to order next. Back-to-school supplies, Halloween toys, and Christmas gift could be delayed, overpriced, or unavailable. Industry insiders predict higher prices and fewer discounts during the holidays. If the trade conflict continues, American shoppers may face a costly and frustrating season ahead. And that wraps up our breakdown of how the tariff war is shaking America. From silent ports to shrinking inventories and anxious markets, are we facing temporary setbacks or signs of something bigger ahead? If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more straight talk on today's most urgent economic issues.